No,
Clearly, their
absolutely
ears
not.
were defective.
Oh, brilliant.
See, it's not. Yeah,
Clearly, their
it's not,
ears were defective.
it's
Was
not
the line that you
murder.
really needed to include there.
I just want to point out
It's not,
for
it's not
the
murder,
audience.
it's stoning.
I'd just like to point out for the audience that the law may take a
The
different
law may definitely
stance.
take a different view of that, but we're talking about the rules for priests in the Crusades.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait, wait,
there's the context
any
that was
violence.
required.
There we go. All right. By the way, they couldn't hear it because when I restarted fucking OBS, it didn't grab my mic. Isn't that awesome?
Well,
Yay!
These are the sort of technical difficulties
way-
that you can expect from Push to Talk when we've been on a long hiatus.
Yeah, but here's the bad thing, Dirk. Everything was working right up until I pushed stream.
You think it was working?
What happened there was Eric just
what-
made the statement, everything was working right up until it wasn't.
Yeah, right up until, well, I sent out the ping on
Everything was
INN,
working
and it
until
didn't
I
take
did
the whole
something.
ping.
Look. I would expect, Dirk, that you would know, and you would be able to sort of appreciate some aspect of this.
Okay.
Are we back on Eric?
Sympathetic to technical difficulties.
Hold on. Before we go too into the weeds here, okay? We are now 20 minutes into the show's official runtime. So I would like to take a moment to address the most important, as this show is in fact, nominally supposed to be a science fiction game.
The show is supposed to be a science fiction game. That's impressive. How do we manage that?
I said the show is nominally supposed to be about a science fiction game.
You did not use the word about there.
Clean out your frickin' ears.
He did. I heard about.
Clean the rocks from your ears.
Anyway, so I would just like to address real brief, before everybody gets back to their tangents, the absolutely most important thing going on.
Yes.
May the 4th be with you.
Ah, yes.
Happy Star Wars Day, people.
All right.
Oh, yes, of course.
It is, yeah.
You know what? I was going to have like the lightsabers going and all kinds of shit. By the way, this is normally opening day because it is also Kentucky Derby Day. And normally Eric is golfing, but Eric is protesting golfing today. So
it's the start of the month of May for the Indy 500. The whole month is going to be Indy 500 stuff in Indianapolis.
So
by the way,
so on a Indy 500 related note,
by the way, I didn't eat today, so I'm eating peanuts.
I don't know how many people who pay attention to the show pay attention to F1 racing at all.
A little bit. Yeah, the US. There's a US F1.
Miami GP.
Weekend.
No. Better than that.
Okay. Oh, all right then.
Mario Andretti's son has a racing team that he's been trying to get into F1.
Yes.
And
you mean Marco Andretti?
And yes, but people who are following IndyCar would definitely know Mario Andretti better than Marco.
No, they know Marco Andretti.
Some of them would, but older ones might not.
Anyway.
Look,
so he's got a team that he's been trying to get into F1. Okay? And the regulatory body said all sorts of, yeah, sure, you can bring American money in. Hell yes. Right? And then
as long as you bring enough of it.
Right. And then F1 themselves said no.
That's because F1 are trying to protect the amount of money that teams already have.
But wait.
Rather than
wait.
They will bring
so where most people might just, try to go to arbitration, right? Or maybe even sue. Right? Andretti goes, "Hey, F1, aren't you actually run by an American company? Congress, does this violate the fucking Sherman Antitrust Act?"
Ooh!
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he pulled out. This is one of those things this week, and we should note this is the edition of whatever Push to Talk Equinox whatever on May 4th. So there we are. Time.
Yes.
date,
Well. I mean, we did.
etc.
I mean, Horrendous
normally
did say
try and
Happy
do.
May the
Pod
4th
racing.
be with you.
But yeah,
That's right. We're into
this-
pod racing.
this week on the F1 topic, this week was actually a huge amount of news on Wednesday, which I did not expect, because Wednesday was also the 30th anniversary of Ayrton Senna's death in an F1 race, which is for anybody who watches F1, it's kind of one of those big moments that everybody knows about, right?
Yeah.
But so normally in the course of the year, the sort of memorial of Ayrton Senna's death, people don't talk about news in F1 quite so much. But this week we ended up having the news that Newey was leaving Red Bull Racing on that one day. We had, as Horrendous has just pointed out, Andretti getting up in front of Congress and basically going like, "Hey, dudes, what the fuck with the antitrust thing?" There was also the release of Ferrari's Miami GP 50th anniversary livery that happened on Wednesday. And there was one more thing that I'm just trying to find real quick. Congress livery. Oh yeah, Gunther Steiner suing Haas for breach of contract.
Question there, Dirk. What
So,
team did that guy leave?
Newey, Red Bull Racing.
What is the name of that team?
Red Bull.
Oracle Red Bull Racing.
Oracle Red Bull Racing. Eric's trying to get his corporate shilling in.
I mean, it like right behind my back. It's embroidered in my chair.
That is
really wants the show to get
embarrassing.
sponsored by Oracle.
Yeah, you know.
To be fair, they have a lot of money they could throw if the most tiniest of a percentage or fraction of a percentage.
We're not getting anything.
Fucking huge.
Larry doesn't. Larry doesn't care. Larry doesn't care about the show. Yeah.
No, not at all. No, he doesn't give a flying fuck.
So yeah.
Although maybe
it's
if we're
time
lucky,
we go to Congress about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could get syndicated on Paramount Plus. Maybe after that deal goes.
Oh dear Lord. Also, we should be showing for Star Wars Day Horrendous's collection of TIE fighters.
Oh yes,
TIE interceptors.
It is interceptors. They do have the.
Are they all
the pointy wings?
Those
Yeah.
4 are all TIE interceptors.
The small one looked a little bit suspect.
It's a
which is why
microfighter.
I went with the.
But
the broad
most
strokes.
notably,
It's the TIE interceptor drone.
The one on the left is the first Ultimate Collector Series set that ever came out back in 2000.
And you know why those are subpar to?
They did
to
not
the
have
X-Wings?
access to the models.
Do you know why they're subpar to the X-Wings?
Why?
Because they don't have a.
Because they're solar powered.
What do we call it? Drive.
They don't have a hyperdrive. They don't have
hyperdrive.
shields. They don't have an astromech.
Yeah, I mean,
However, this year's reissued Ultimate Collector Series TIE Interceptor, the one on the right, that literally fucking just came out on Wednesday for another Wednesday item there, Dirk, has a mouse droid.
During a Wednesday items.
has a what?
A mouse droid.
droid.
You know those
By the way-
freaking boxy droids that are always running around the Death Star.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
The ones that go beep 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 beep.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And then freaks
the ones
out
that people
and
kick and shit. Yeah.
The ones people always trip over.
The ones that you can drive in Jedi Knight 2.
Yes.
Oh,
There you
nice.
go.
Okay.
And in
Cool.
certain parts of Old Republic.
This was
So just-
fun fact with Horrendous and Soft.
I mean, I'm thinking to myself like, there's not exactly that much room for one of those to sort of really be useful.
It's
is
not
all I'm
in.
thinking.
It's not in the ship. It's
It runs
just
around
comes
it.
with the set.
Oh, okay. It comes with the set. I was like, what use does it have
they only
inside
did
of one of those
minifigure with
things?
it. And most of the time, the collector sets these days come with multiple minifigs. So instead, they
Okay.
gave me Mouse Droid.
Is it
So,
weird that I
Eric,
always get
where is,
stuck in
where
the
is the
whole
picture for the
ion
stream?
engine thing, knowing how ion engines are supposed to work?
No, that's knowing how our ion engines work.
What do
So
you
I
mean
would like to know
supposed
how
to
these
work?
are doing
Caleb?
what they're doing. How can they accelerate that fast with an ion engine?
There's a different kind of physics going on in that galaxy,
This
Yeah.
is
far
true.
away.
Well,
Plan
it was
time.
also a
Stop
long
mid-
time
mid-air.
ago, so
Caleb, you're missing the important point.
I am.
You are.
The ions were more
A
excitable.
single ion engine wouldn't be able to do that. It's a twin ion engine, so the twin paradox is in play.
Oh, now you're
The
getting
more you
technical
know.
with us.
These are the best peanuts ever.
What's that quote, Arendis? I hate
thank you
temporal
for your
mechanics.
participation in this conversation, Eric.
There you go,
You
baby.
hate what, Caleb?
That was
The
incredibly.
quote
painful.
is I hate temporal mechanics.
Who the fuck invited Caleb to this show?
I think you did.
Hey, he's grandfathered in, baby. It
I'm
was
one of
just fun
those
to say.
horrible things like in academia. I'm like an emeritus. They can't get rid of me. They just have to put me further and further towards the attic.
Unfortunately, I think that counts for basically all of us in this channel at this point, given how long we've been doing
Yeah,
this.
what the hell? Well, fuck it.
We're fucking
Throw it here.
tenured, baby.
There's the mouse droid, by the way. It's grainy
this
as
is our
fuck 'cause
emotional
it's
support.
just
Oh, yeah.
enlarged from the other image, but
Just so everybody is aware, and everybody watching this is aware, this is basically our emotional support group.
Yeah, really, it is.
Yes, hi. I'm a former Eve player too.
By
My
the
name
way.
is Jacob.
But by the way, like Caleb, like you were helping Arendis, I might have to lean on Soth because there's this German company that has a part for the robot lawnmower that I just bought that's an enhancement and only they make it. And I sent them a German email and they won't respond to me, so I'm leaving it up. I gotta
Oh
enlist
dear.
the power of the
somebody
Soth.
a German email.
You need an angry
do we
German
want
to write an email.
Do we want to know what you actually said to this company in your German email?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I'll tell everybody basically what I mean. By the way, I have a
No,
German...
Eric. I don't want to know what you think you said.
no.
I want to know what you
no, no, no.
actually said.
The problem is he didn't actually write it in German. He wrote it in English and then just deleted all the spaces and added more K's.
No. My brother-in-law was born in Germany. He speaks German. His whole family is from Germany. So yeah, I had him write it for me. I told him what to say. But basically, it was reaching. They haven't responded to the email. I would, in like 2 weeks. So maybe they're not going to respond to me because they just don't care. But I said, I see that you're a German company. Basically, would you be willing to ship your product to the U.S.? And basically, they adapted the blade assembly for this particular robot lawnmower to go to like 8 blades or 9 blades per turning, per assembly. There's 2 assemblies, and they took them from being what they are to a really nice metal layout. It really looks sharp. It looks like a really great design. And I happened across them on YouTube, found their company, and then they had a contact us page. So called my brother-in-law and said, send this to me.
You would really hope that a blade looks sharp.
Yeah,
I mean,
no. Well, for those for those of you who ever researched robot lawnmowers, whatever, but they just use basically razor blades underneath, and
really
most
big
of
ones, yeah.
No, they're small ones actually.
Eric,
I mean, that's how you get replacements for them in the US, right? You just buy one of those packs of 10 and
Well, no,
swap
they
them
sell
out
them
with a
They
little
sell them.
Allen key.
Yeah, no, they sell them, and they do use an Allen key. But the one I bought has 4 per blade, and it has 2 of them, right? 4 per unit, and most of them have only 3. But these were, all the robot lawnmowers have a problem with the grass accumulating underneath and the blades getting kind of stuck. But this looked like a really great design. Surprise, comes from Germany, right? Really great design. So I just reached out to them, and we'll see. But
My
I
dad
need your help.
My dad helped develop the GPS tracking on those.
RTK.
That too.
What?
The RTK.
I don't know about that specific model, but my dad's
They all use
patent.
RTK.
My dad's on the patent for the satellite controlled or satellite
Cool.
GPS lawnmowers.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's called RTK or RTKN, right? Basically, you have a ground unit that is also attaching to the GPS, and the mower itself now attaches to the GPS, and then they reconcile between the two to be within 1 to 2 centimeters, so they can go without a electric cable in the ground.
He also had to work. He had to work on the sensors to not run over like squirrels and shit.
Nice.
Why would you not want I mean, as long as they're gray squirrels, it's fine, right?
Well, it's
No.
Because it gums up the works.
Yeah, it comes up the blades.
He was working on the big versions for like golf courses.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you,
not like run over.
When you look at the ones for the golf courses, the Crest ones really look cool because they can work in. You can put 10 of them out there, and they'll all mow together and coordinate. The problem with the Crests in the U.S. and where I live, there's a lot of hills, so the rather than putting an RTK unit in your yard, they do it at the dealer, which could be 6, 10, 15 miles away from you. And with rolling hills, they don't transmit as well that signal.
So you know how
but mine looks like a Formula One race car. So I'm going to put the Red Bull Oracle Racing stuff on it. Also, a company in France that makes those. You just buy them and you stick the stickers on them.
You know how I know that this is a show full of nerds?
Why?
We've just spent about 5 minutes talking about the intricacies of remote robotic lawnmowers.
Oh yeah,
How do you
fucking
think
know it.
Skynet is going to become real?
We should say hi to our good friend Seema in Twitch chat though, who is excited that we're back.
Seema.
Just wait until Dawn starts getting into the intricacies of robotic self-propelled cat boxes.
That is hard. Anyways, can we talk about Eve before I leave?
Yep.
We can start out by talking about why we were away for so long. We've been away for
which is in fact about Eve.
Point?
And it is about Eve. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
We were away because like half of the channel was off working on a different Eve project.
I would say probably 3/4 of the channel. 3/4.
No.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah. So what was the team working on this last few weeks?
Oh, I don't know. I think we had a little community-run tournament going on.
One of these smaller tournaments, yes.
Yes.
Just a little community thing, nothing big.
It's just a small, intimate little tournament. That's all.
Definitely not running 51 teams through 150 matches or something.
What was your
124?
did you guys calculate your average viewership and your peak at viewership over those 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah.
Viewership was 4,700.
Yep, 4,717 according to Twitch stats.
Ooh, nice.
Does this mean that all Eve players are interested in now is anger game stuff and tournament stuff?
Well,
Yes.
not anymore because it's over.
there is that. There is that.
With those
That's right.
viewer
Now that
numbers,
the tournament's over, nobody gives a shit about it.
There you go, baby.
That's how that works, isn't it?
Well, that's what Soth just said. Not anymore, because it's over.
That was I'd like to congratulations, guys. I know you did a lot of work. A lot of work. That was great.
The moment the last match finished, people were asking about when the AT starts.
They were also asking about when the next Anger Games starts. The answer is not yet.
we told them, hey, you can ask after the AT is over and Jinton's upcoming tournament that he hasn't announced yet.
There you go.
It's totally happening, though.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that we go on hiatus when Anger Games is kind of running too, not just because so many people from the show are involved in it, but because we don't want to fight viewership either, right? We want people to pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's no point fighting for it.
The 12 people that watch the show. I mean, we want those 12 people to boost those 4,000. That's a significant percentage of the viewership of Anger Games.
Oh, absolutely. Push to Talk viewers are right up there with our usual tournament viewership. But yeah, no. So we had a really great time. Like Soth was saying, it was something like 150 matches overall. That includes the show matches that we did that also had prizes.
Which, to be fair, we call them show matches. But they were following. They were competitive. They were following the regular rules. They had prizes and everything. So they are more called show matches because they are in between the final matches.
Oh, okay.
They took place between teams that had been eliminated, and they came back to do more matches, have more fun with the tournament, and potentially win a couple skins. In terms of the way prizes worked out for Anger Games 6, Soth? It's something like 540 skins or something we're giving away in prizes, and another 127,500 plex overall.
Wow.
Yes, I am literally handing out 2 trillion ISK in prizes.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool. That's a big deal.
It's just a small tournament,
I have a question. Did CCP do any promotion, any featuring of you guys? Any call outs of specific people or anything on it?
They did a lot. They actually did a lot.
You mentioned our stream numbers. So as we said, peak concurrent viewership on was actually on day 3 of 6. Was interesting to me. 4,700 peak concurrent viewers on day 3. Our grand finals day had 4,500 peak viewers.
That's good numbers.
In terms of the unique viewers, we were 13.5K for the grand finals and about 15K for the for day 3. So this was all on, of course, CCP's Twitch channel. So they really gave us a huge amount of support on the Twitch front. But we also got name checked a bit. So
nice,
right?
Yeah. If you watched the last Pulse video, there was a small name drop for Dirk and me.
Small.
Which thanks for that. It's not something I think either of us expected, but it's a nice nod, right? That kind of tells you that they appreciate the work.
Yeah, and it's a big deal. You guys put a lot of work in.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
I mean, Soth talks about the work. It's been a long slog.
Yeah. Well, round of golf claps. Golf clap, everyone. Golf clap. Fantastic work, boys.
Yeah, we first started planning this round of Anger Games last August. Was really when we kicked it off to start thinking about the rules and everything. Released it all in December, end of December. And then prepping for like 3 months, and then the actual event, which was like 7-8 hour days for 3 weekends on the trot. All I'm saying is I'm enjoying having a day off today.
There you go. There you go.
Well,
And
just
by the way,
remember, that means you don't have to start working on the next one for 2 months.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, fuck that
This
for
is
a game of soldiers.
You'd be surprised how actually sort of real that actually is.
Yeah, I love your "we'll be right back" thing.
Yeah, I just realized I haven't got it, and I need to kind of change it. So like, yeah, it's kind of like.
By the way, we forgot to tell everybody, hey, welcome back to the May 4th, 2024. 2024. I like that date.
I
Show Push to Talk. I don't know what the hell you did.
We kind of covered the whole date like twice.
Did we say all the co-hosts that are on the show today? Did we say, because it's a big freaking list for being back? Holy shit!
We didn't necessarily cover everybody who's here, but I think everybody's spoken up at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know if
No, I just snuck in.
He's
here.
That's why I drew attention to it, because he was sneaking in.
I'm just gonna. You guys talk.
I want to be polite.
Taking a nap. All right.
Because I don't think Dawn will be here for much longer. And
she's just so frustrated right now.
Yeah. I think Dawn really wants to talk about something.
I think she wants to talk about like the fight that went down, probably, and the streaming that she did with it.
I talked about that enough. I talked for 5 hours straight.
Oh, okay. I thought you might want to actually sort of say, if you didn't see the actual
thing, is there
thing,
something you want to talk about?
No, I want to listen to you guys talk about like the new changes coming up in the fight.
You mean the death of Nullsec?
P.I.S.O.V. Dawn's excited about P.I.S.O.V., everybody.
It's not P.I.S.O.V. though.
It's fucking P.I.S.O.V.
No, it's not P.I.S.O.V.
Yeah,
you know why? Because it's gonna be no Sov. I'm telling you, there's not gonna be an overlap between the iHub TCU and these new Sov hubs. CCP is gonna fat finger it, and the moment this shit goes live, the moment these things can be built, Sov's gonna drop all over Nullsec.
I mean, I hate
the TCUs and iHubs are just going to get deleted.
I did mention that in a question in the actual Evo forums, by the way. Like I did, I posed a bunch of questions, and that was one of them. Whether we would have like an overlap where we could actually build these things and online them before CCP gets the breakers, right?
My understanding is we do have overlap. There was a.
Thank you for that.
There was a dead silence.
There was a
and then got like executed by CCP.
I do want to point out. Yes,
sorry, it's
I will drop all over Nullsec. I have become inevitable.
Yes. Sorry, I thought my push to talk button on my mouse was the problem. Turns out even shifting it to a different one
we have found the only person on the show who actually uses push to talk.
No, that's the problem, Dirk. I'm not using it now because it's not working.
Then this is the reason why
the problem was you using it in the first place.
Yes. I'm on push to talk right now.
Well, thank God, because
you're
constantly in the freaking car, of course. You're either at a restaurant, in the car, on a train, on a plane.
Dawn is just never anywhere near a PC for the show. Is the truism here? But yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about, when we mention P.I.S.O.V., when we mention NoSov, when we mention what's going on, CCP have recently. Give me a second. CCP have recently announced, this happened about 10 days or so ago, while we were in the middle of the Anger Games, that the new expansion for EVE Online, which is called Equinox, and is coming on June 11th, is going to drop, and is going to be all about a radical reinvigoration of nullsec space. That's a quote. That's a direct quote from
there's no asterisk in that
on
particular bit.
Equinox.
Like it literally is
there's
just
no
the Equinox
asterisk on the
expansion.
page, but there is an asterisk to it.
Well, all I heard about it was that they're going to dunk dinkle the motherfucker, and even Wibbler says that doing passive moon stuff like that again, bad fucking idea.
So what's going on here is...
Do you by any chance have an issue with passive moon mining at all?
Passive income, unless you're unemployed and it's food stamps level income, I am very much opposed to passive income.
Let's give an idea of what's coming.
Let's let Dirk finish going over what's happening before we start.
Let's talk about what we know, and what we know is not a huge amount so far, right? A lot of what we're talking about, or what we're going to be talking about, is extrapolated from what the hell CCP have kind of announced in their dev blogs and what have you. But we don't have any patch notes. It's not live. We also, fun fact, don't have a test server to test any of these new mechanics on. So
because we don't need one, Dirk.
In terms of those bits of detail, it's going to be a little bit questionable for the next probably like 3 weeks or so. This is probably going to be an ongoing topic for this show.
Was that a serious assertion that this shit doesn't need to be tested at scale?
I will get into it in a minute, Arendis, but
we'll get there.
The indications imply there might actually not be a need for a test server.
We'll get there.
I highly refute that. But
so things coming in the new Equinox expansion include the implementation of a new skyhook planetary structure, which doesn't quite replace Poco's. We've had confirmation it doesn't replace Poco's outright, but is going to be a nullsec thing that supports a new SOV system, which is going to be a new SOV hub that takes the TCU and the iHub. So the two main, here's the system flag of who owns it, and then here's the structure that runs everything, smashes them all together like we've thought was coming for a lot of years. An additional moon mining drill, which will be a passive income drill that, from the way CCP have talked about it on the forums, looks like it's going to be an either-or proposition. You will either have the active moon drill on a not a Tatara, an Athanor, or you will have this new Metanox moon drill that is the passive one. The new skyhooks, the Poco replacement stuff, they're only in nullsec space. The passive moon mining drills will be available everywhere apart from highsec. And then, on top of that, you've got the typical iHub arrays, but also potentially a new officer spawn array that you could put into your iHubs to upgrade systems. There are going to be 4 new hauling ships, all designed around the new aspects of SOV, which come from the Skyhook, which is why I call it PI SOV, because these new ships, which is a hauler, a DST, a blockade runner, and a freighter, they're also all going to be able to hold PI in their specialized SOV item cargo bay.
Well, they're saying reagents. I'm not sure whether it's going to be specifically PI stuff, or like the new stuff, the new PI.
The final bit about this.
Reagents.
Oh, okay.
The final bit about this is a few new things for the air, new player, capsuleer. How do we get new players into EVE and familiarize themselves with it? Thing. And finally, last but not least, although also kind of least, custom skins for ships, which will be happening through the Skinner interface that we've been able to use to customize structures like Fortizars and Keepstars and all the rest of it for the last few months.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, it's a tiny little expansion that only touches one of the most significant parts of EVE Online ever. So, you know, no big deal, right?
It only touches the area of EVE that, you know, everybody holds significant kind of, you know, significant value in, like player-wise. That's all.
So yeah, I mean,
will this move the iHub in 1DQ?
what? Sorry,
yes,
John?
technically.
So what now?
What was that about? What about the iHub on 1DQ?
Will this cause the iHub in 1DQ to be moved from our grandfathered Fortizar?
Probably.
Yes.
It will be a whole new structure.
This is almost certainly the death of the Quern's hardpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It might. The indication is it won't be immediate, but eventually it's
I mean, it's almost guaranteed that these structures are going to be, going to have a sort of a distance, like a minimum distance that you can actually sort of place it down on. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It will.
Let's talk about passive income.
Hold up. Let's first acknowledge the most important quality of life improvement that this expansion will bring to nullsec.
Oh no.
No more soft wanding.
Whoa, that's confirmed.
Whoa, no, actually, quite the opposite.
Let's not, jump to conclusions here.
That's really not confirmed.
No, it appears to be quite the opposite.
What?
The CCP communication via a CSM seems to indicate that it's going to be that we keep iHubs and TCUs for a little while until they transfer over, and in the meantime, Sovwanding transfers over to the new structure as well, possibly, maybe, don't know, until a later date where they then modify stuff again to fully remove it and I guess move it to Upwell timers. Hence why I say there might not be a need for singularity testing.
There is a need for testing.
There's absolutely a need for testing.
I know.
You cannot put in new systems and expect them to be working at the scale of hundreds of thousands of users and not test it at scale.
Right. But the point here is that you're not putting new systems in, you're patching old systems onto old.
Yeah.
No.
But you're also patching old systems onto new systems. And
That's
you can't
even
be
worse.
Absolutely certain.
I know,
that
horrendous. That's my concern.
By the way, my little, smell the wafting catastrophe about to happen because, anytime you move code and it doesn't really matter if you make the slightest change, things fuck up. So yeah, you got it. QA is a thing. By the way, yeah. I don't always test my code, but when I do, it's in production. So
I posed a few questions actually in the Evo forums about various different things. I did get a sort of a reply from Swift basically saying that the answers are coming because there's going to be more blogs and more sort of like articles about all the various different stuff.
This is why I mentioned it's going to be an ongoing topic for us, I think.
It definitely is.
We are.
If you were by any chance interested if you were by any chance interested in any of the kind of like questions I actually asked, like I wanted a confirmation that it was going to be an either or with regards to active versus passive moon mining. Whether the passive output is going to be lower than the output of an active moon mining via the Athanors, and if it is, whether if it's going to be lower, whether that sort of like difference is going to be based around averages of what Athanors kind of put out, or what Athanors could put out, or whether those whether and how that's weighted basically. I also asked if the workforce and reagents can be transferred or transported. There was a video, kind of like a lore sort of styled video about the potential of workforces being able to move around, maybe.
Yeah, so that's actually, just real quick, Mac, that's actually something that we haven't necessarily touched on yet, that we probably should. This new Skybook structure that I say is not a POCO replacement, because CCP have said, it won't be in LowSec, it won't be in wormhole space, it's not technically replacing customs officers when it comes to PI interactions.
Yeah.
But it is a structure that will create or farm three things.
Two things.
Within nullsec play.
Two things.
Two things.
Two things. Yeah, workforce and reagents.
What about the
And
power
CS.
function?
Power,
Power appears to be
it's
from
weird
suns.
because it's coming from suns. They've said that like you basically harvest it from suns with a it says in the harvest planetary power, it says power harvest energy directly from suns and volatile atmospheres of plasma and storm planets.
Okay,
so I guess technically you can also do that. Like,
yeah,
it also means there's a structure that we haven't seen yet as well.
Well,
or
that's
maybe
an
you just
assumption.
put
It
a
could be
skyhook on a sun.
or it could be the iHub.
Somehow
TCU
I'm
has to
pulling
be around the
workforce
sun.
out of the sun. What's going on here?
But yeah, so
my inclination would be. Oh, sorry, Derek, you go.
There are these three things: the power, the workforce, and the reagents. So the idea is that you are taking people from the planets in order to, run your SOV system. You're going to have reagents, which come from the planets, which are basically just another PI substance, but they're specific to the new SOV system. And you're going to need all of these to... and then obviously you've got the power, which is harvested from suns or specific planets. And these three factors are all going to go into your iHubs to run the upgrades. So
also just run the iHubs, like, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah. So like there's a level of
we can see that USA
it's almost
the
as
right
if
way. Canada must keep clear.
we might see it's almost like we might see hub systems that are fully upgraded, and then like a number of systems around that sort of semi-support their own upgrades, but also the upgrades of the main hub system in the constellation or whatever. Maybe. We don't know if you're going to be able to farm all of the required power, workforce, and reagents to run a maximally upgraded system from a single system, or if you're going to have to import new things.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're going to have to import new things, aren't you?
Yes. Every indication I've seen from stuff is that systems are not going to be self-sustaining. You are going to have to pick what systems you upgrade and what you use as a farm in order to move stuff.
We also don't know whether any of this has like diminishing returns either.
Reiterating, this is some level of speculation, some level of educated guesswork, and of course, as ever, until CCP push it to tranquility, we don't know that this is the final form it's going to take. We also don't know how it's going to work right now because we don't have anywhere to test it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep hammering on that because,
it could be worse, Derek. They could be testing it live right now.
Oh, what, in Jove Space or somewhere?
I mean, yeah. Well, not Jove Space. What's CCP testing space? You know what I mean.
Jove Space.
They could be testing it there. You know what?
They use the
Jove CCP testing space.
I'm taking the piss with that. But we have had instability the last couple months, haven't we?
Yes, it's been quite obvious, quite often that I've noted and gone onto Reddit and seen a post saying Eve is dead, like Eve is killed or that kind of thing. Like Eve is basically
login
dropped
servers
for some
have been falling
random
over
reason.
a little bit. The Eve status. There's an Eve status Twitter account that's been active like once a week for the last month or so. To basically say, hey, we're investigating an issue. But like it's worth noting on the bye Dawn. She's off to a meeting, I guess. Space.
She's being space important, I believe.
But yeah,
anyway.
The reason I'm harping on the testing function at least is because if you think back to the introduction of FOSI-SOV, or as it's more properly known, Aegis-SOV, and I'm sure Horrendous does not want to go back to the beginning of FOSI-SOV. But if you think back, at that point, CCP put an entirely new test server up. I forget whether it was Buckingham or if it was one of the other ones. But there was something like a 3-month period where everybody was able to get on this very dedicated test server for the new SOV system and really put it to its limit. Stress it out, figure out how the mechanics work, figure out how SOV wanding worked. I seem to remember that basically everybody on the test server decided that they were going to fight over Providence, because obviously Providence is the place we test all new mechanics, including
yeah. And then when it hit live, we also
station
fought over
conversions and whatever. Providence is the strategic home of testing.
I think for some reason people, I think a fair few kind of people who were on the test server were like, I wonder how many stations that weren't going to be required anymore are in Providence, and they went to Providence and met more people and were like, okay, well, let's have a fight here then. Let's do the testing here, and then
basically
everybody realized how many stations are going to be lost in Providence.
But yeah, so we had something like 3 months of dedicated test space for the introduction of Aegisov, and the way it worked, the bits of how did Intosis work? How did the spawning of Intosis nodes versus the actual system that you're in work? And this new system where we're going to have to be importing, exporting resources, managing a new structure that is an upwell structure, but so does that mean like you can shoot it as normal? Does that mean being Intosis one?
And most of all, you forgot.
Are they tuned properly?
You forgot a crucial point there. Obviously, when you're testing, you are also giving out feedback about what is too strong, what is too weak, what mechanics need to be changed. And CCP will definitely act on that instead of ignoring it. So we have to write another open letter that is signed by hundreds of FCs.
I mean, CCP will realize that and act on it about 3 years too late. That's certainly true.
Yeah, that's part of the course.
I mean, it definitely sounds like, our kind of gripe with this whole kind of system is, one, we don't have any idea as to whether sov-wanding is still going to be a thing on it, and if it is, then that's a fucking massive negative, because a lot of people really fucking hate sov-wanding. And two, just the amount of concern that we have with the fact that CCP just doesn't seem to want to let us test this in any way, shape, or form.
This is
concerning.
CCP have had this for a few years, right? The whole bit of, oh yeah, we want you to organically discover these new aspects of the game. And
as if that's going to change anything.
When there's a wormhole story arc, or fucking Zaza, where it was all hinted at months in advance and you were exploring it as a storyline arc, that's fine. But when these are critical mechanics of the game,
so this is actually you bring up Zarzak, Dirk, and this is actually really quite funny because we never actually, I don't think players ever actually got to test what Zarzak was. They just had to they end up finding and learning about it and that kind of thing in this organic way that CCP kind of wants us to do.
But the other thing is, Zarzak
it is really fucked around
with fundamental mechanic.
Yeah, that is true, but it has also fucked power projection in nullsec like something fucking serious.
I mean, yeah, but at least it's not the thing that every system relies on for a flag.
It's not the fundamental basis of nullsec, and therefore also kind of the fundamental basis of people's all the sort of energy and all of the time investment in that people have put into that people have put into EVE Online, right? I'm not trying to nullify people who live in wormholes or live in nullsec, but those aren't the stories coming out of there aren't the ones that hit the front page of actual legit IRL news and stuff.
I mean, wormholes do, but
once one time,
yeah, a couple. But I mean, I know what you mean. It's sort of null is
it's not the big poster boy kind of bit of EVE Online.
Null is the big thing. And it's just
I'm sure the
mechanics of that you fuck with everything, right?
But
no, they've got their own fun, quiet little corner. Don't get me wrong. And they love being out of the way.
I mean, it's
extremely
extremely... They don't have to
deal with us and our bullshit.
It's an extremely volatile and on-fire corner at this particular point in time.
I mean, hey, look,
it's fun,
wormholers are, as ever,
yeah.
collateral damage.
and they're having more wars than us.
I was there thinking to myself, like, how can I get collateral damage into this? And then Dirk did it way before I could think it.
But yeah, so I mean, there's a question in Twitch chat about how is this going to change the status quo? You know, how does it change anything for big groups like us who can just kind of brute force a lot of numbers? But also, like as ever, you know, how does this help the smaller groups that are trying to break into nullsec? And I don't know. I don't know about the rest of you, but my answer is it doesn't. It probably doesn't really, because those of us with big groups can brute force it, and the smaller groups still need to figure out a space where the big groups aren't brute forcing it, right? So I'm curious.
It depends on how this reactant shit works. Because if that really forces you to compact in, it's going to open space up for smaller groups.
Sounds to me like someone is trying to strong arm the Dunk Dinkle argument of think of the little people into the whole debacle.
I mean always think of the little guys, right?
This is how we got here.
It's always to make it better for new players.
Endless tiptoeing in, but think of the new players. Which new players?
I'm not going to say
think of the new players.
Yeah, new children.
I'm not going to say it in the think of the new players way, but I think the game has hit a point where it's two big blocks in null, right? Let's be real.
Well, the problem
Init have done their own thing.
That point over and over.
It does.
Again.
It does.
You know why it does that?
It's stagnant now because of Intosis.
It was stagnant over and over and over again. It gets stagnant every few years. It happens until people in the big block start bickering with one another, and suddenly there's a crack. Because that's what people do. They conglomerate into bigger and bigger groups, and then one of those groups has internal pressure, and something breaks. That's just what happens.
Whilst I agree...
And what people don't understand about this is every time you lower the bar and the barrier of entry of anything related to EVE Online, the big blocks are always going to be the ones that are going to benefit massively from this. It's ironic, but it's the fact of reality that if you make barrier of entry easier, the bigger guys are just going to be able to crush you even harder, because that is usually because that's usually one of the things that keep competition a possibility, because there's strain inside big organizations if complexity and barriers of entry is actually in the design. But as soon as you remove it, big organizations are just going to benefit way more than your little guy and new player and summer children.
Yeah, they can put the economies of scale to work for them.
Exactly. That's not what we seem to be getting out of this reactant and power system.
Well, if you make something like passive stuff, right? Because we've seen this in EVE already. It was one of the first big bugs,
stuff is
right?
Different though, Caleb.
No, it's not. It's exactly the problem that you have lowered the work and strain on a big organization.
Here, Caleb.
I absolutely disagree with you, Caleb. Absolutely, wholeheartedly.
Very
passive income leads to
content,
and
internal conflict. Typically,
it absolutely does not, Soth, and I'll tell you why it looks like it does. The reason it looks like it does is because the passive income we were used to was based on pauses, which could be thrown up in 90 minutes and you didn't get an alert. If you take that and you say, okay, the old passive system will work, but the guys whose space you're trying to drop it in will get an alert, and it'll take 24 hours before anything happens, and they can still kill it.
We don't know anything about this structure. We do not know what this new moon structure is going to be like.
It's going to be a drill on an Athanor.
Yes, but
the Athanor already does that. The Athanor already gives the The Athenor already gives the alert if you try to anchor it in someone else's territory. It already takes 24
that's
hours.
Not a given. We have structures that anchor in an hour and a half.
I am not talking about conflict between hostile alliances. I am talking about inter-organizational conflict, which is something we have not at the moment, right?
Yeah, there's a lot less.
The only thing that can lead to the big power blocks breaking up is inter-organizational conflict. We've seen this in the past. Just look at CO2 leaving the CFC.
One big question here, Zoth. Are you sure you don't mean intra-organizational?
Yes, I do.
That's exactly what he meant. But yes. But like,
way to be pedantic, but that is part of course.
No, because basically he was saying, listen, I'm not talking about conflict between these two large organizations. We're talking about conflict between organizations.
No, I'm talking about conflict within organizations.
Right. That's why I was making the point.
To make
somebody out there listening is just going to go, what?
Yeah. It's that level of friction between like TNT and Goonswarm, or 2 corps within Goonswarm, even, right? Like fucking. I don't know. Are Bovril still part of Goonswarm?
I think so.
Well,
I mean, you know, as well as
kind of
what used to be Blaze of Grass, and you know,
I don't know exactly.
And all of that shit as well. Like that's well, exactly. You know, but that came about on under the auspices of you know, people basically you know hiding away fucking moon goo, right? That's a classic thing.
Yeah, and if you think about it, and I don't know if this is exactly what Zoth is referring to, but when it comes to internal conflict and even intra-group conflict, this all comes down to, as I recall, 2 things, right? It's big dick waving power based things, right? So authority and trust issues. If the systems in play are too easy to streamline these things and even to centralize or make them possible for very few people, and a lot of this can be managed by less and less.
Mining ledgers?
Well, exactly. Well, many of these things, if you remove the need for trust, and if you remove this is almost opposite
the opportunity
Marxism.
For corruption?
Exactly. Well, someone needs to be able to gain disproportionately more power than they deserve to get that kind of interpersonal structural stress happening, which makes the game a lot more fun. Maybe not to some snowflakes, but the whole backstabbing game and the betrayal game and all of these shenanigans, to me, that's what makes Eve. And this is why I've left, because all of that has gone.
That's how you drive conflict. That's how you prevent stagnation in nullsec. You build in more and more opportunities for corruption. But I don't think that this passive moon drill has any chance of doing that, because, you know, if we've already got the mining ledgers, that's showing that CCP is setting things up in a way that can be tracked. There's no reason to believe that the passive moon goo will not also be able to be tracked.
There's a level here of
people
are talking about conflict, and I think what we mean when we're talking about these intra-organizational things is not conflict necessarily, but friction. It's the little niggles in the back of your head that frustrate you. But not enough to
result.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a corp leader, an alliance leader going, hey, why do I get less of this new moon goo than the other leader, right? And
why's he got 10 R64s and I get 2?
Yeah, and in the end it turns out, oh no, one of his guys was actually siphoning off into his own pocket.
Yeah, and if you think about it, this is what escalates into. In my personal experience with Eve, into the bigger conflicts, right? Because you have these things, then you have distribution of wealth problems, distribution of responsibility and authority problems, then you get people that get outed and get yeeted out of the airlock, then they join another group, then they have a grudge, then you get all these grudge matches. All of that thing is what creates real conflict. I'm on record for saying that it's got a lot to do with the game economy, and that's only partially true, because this cannot by itself lead to these personality grudges and cult of personality things and all of that. This has to be a joint venture between. Things need to be obfuscated in EVE Online. The more things are streamlined and easy and perfect knowledge and all of this bullshit, the worse the game gets. And this is what has happened over the past decade, that CCP has been trying to cater to dumber and dumber player, with the result being a more and more boring game.
It's not. It's not that CCP is trying to cater to dumber and dumber players. What you're seeing is CCP responding to the large groups producing all of these internal tools, and CCP saying, wow, that's really useful, that would be helpful to people. But the reason the large groups do these internal tools is to prevent exactly the sorts of things that create the conflict CCP wants.
It's a pure info set, right? Like, the reason we all have our like, every alliance, literally, like, every alliance of medium scale and up. And when I say medium scale and up, I'm not talking about these 1,000-player alliances. I'm talking about, like, the 100-player alliances.
Yeah, you start hitting 100 people
doing their own thing, and every one of them has. And I think I read a Hilmar interview earlier this week. Please don't take too much into the fact that I read a Hilmar interview, but he mentioned in that, and it's a fact of EVE Online, that once you start talking about a medium-sized alliance of about 100 real people, every one of those alliances has the equivalent of its own internal IT team. They may not be a huge team. They may be like 2 guys managing a server and an instance of like Alliance North or whatever.
2 guys in a shed, literally.
So but they have the equivalent of their own IT team. And
the funny thing is, when you develop internal kind of like friction inside of those sorts of things, like that one person that may get pissed off because of it in some way, shape, or form and walks, could be a really integral and important part. Like I remember being like after the whole breakup of the old Northern Coalition, and I was kind of like, my corporation was like bouncing around in various different places. We ended up in Brick Squad, and I know it's fucking crazy, weird, but whatever. One of our corp guys was essentially in charge, like actually was the sort of main IT guy for the forums and all of that kind of thing for Brick Squad. And at one point, somebody pissed him off in some way, shape, or form, and he just fucking walked, and all of our fucking, all of our internal kind of like, all of our comms, like external comms from the game and all that kind of stuff, just basically broke, and it was a fucking massive deal.
Well, and that's really what it comes down to. When you're back to what we're talking about internal failure problems, right?
Fuck you guys, I'm actually putting all of this public.
Well, and this is what creates all that struggle and strife and grudges and all of this. It's every time, and now I'm going to use the term, every time organizations get past certain things like the Dunbar number and then later the proper corporate numbers, then there's so many points of failure, and there's always failure going on, which creates these personal issues, grudges, drama, and it just spills into all these outlets, right? In Discord, in forums, where people just hate on each other. And this is why you can't clean up a game like EVE Online, because then it's no longer the game it's supposed to be.
That's really the thing, right? So I'm going to shout out real quick in Twitch chat.
Yeah,
I'm going to shout out Froggy.
EVE runs on spite.
Hate, spite, jealousy, all of these negative feelings.
I'm shouting out our friend Froggy Storm for his Twitch raid. Thank you very much, Froggy.
Hey!
Thank you very much.
And then I'm going to say,
it runs on spite, but it also is persisted by people who fucking want to struggle together as well. So
yes,
but there was a mention of, CCP have taken a look at all of these player tools that are really cool and gone, hey, it would be great if we built that into the base game. And the reason that everybody has their own instances of these tools, or their own versions, right? In some cases, the same program has been developed in slightly different ways 4 times across 4 different organizations, right? Like, think Taco, which is an alert system, if you're not aware. It's an alert system that reads system logs and will give you a ping in it reads like a chat log. And if a neutral character is reported within like 5 jumps of wherever you're ratting, it gives you a ping in your computer system to say, hey, somebody is coming. You may want to think about docking up your super, for example. And I know of about 4 or 5 of these programs that are all slightly different, but all do exactly the same thing. That have all been developed by different people because nobody trusts the one developed by the opposing alliance.
If you've ever been in these backwater kind of areas,
look at all of the drama about the different wormhole mapping things, where like anytime somebody developed one, that's going to give all of your information to this group.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly.
You can't give your ESIs. Right?
Like, Are you using a mapping system that you control? As in, like, are you installing onto your own server? No. Well, then you're a fucking dumbass because all of your data is actually basically being read by somebody else, and you're being data mined.
And it's all infosec. It's all infosec concerns.
There's an important point here, right, from CCP as a developer, that instead of saying, oh, wait a minute, these kinds of tools where things get better and better automated is actually a problem for the game, and then starting to remove the option to do so, right? Removing the game's ability to give information like that and making it illegal to scrape things like the cache and the memory and all that stuff. Instead, CCP went the other way and started giving more and more API tools, more and more ESI tools, to the point where they basically catered to all these tool developers. And the result has become that it is easier if you reach a certain group size to play EVE Online than not. And that type of automation is a big problem. It's basically
the irony being that CCP's ESI support has been degrading for years at this point.
But the irony here as well is that the new Awakening is basically being touted by Hilmar, aside from the whole fucking blockchain shit, right?
Do we really want to talk about the blockchain adventure?
I just because it's somewhat relatable, especially with regards to Caleb's kind of hatred of CCP giving so much control and access to people developing tools and things. But essentially Hilmar's been touting the EVE Awakening thing as basically being so open that it's going to be unprecedented levels of access to create tools with.
Well, the point is that any game that is supposed to work on struggle and strife and stuff like that needs to have, again, back to these points of failure. That means that you need some sort of level of ignorance or imperfect data, where things are obfuscated to the point where you might be able to make tools, but the tools will have some sort of breakage point where they can't give you everything that you need, like perfect wormhole rolling bullshit or perfect, even perfect market data.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things that I think there's 2 ways of kind of like
to run the economic tax numbers on a region you've never even gone into and say, oh, they're building supers in this system.
Exactly. Like if you want perfect data, then you need to be able you need to take the time and the effort to go and collect that perfect data. If you want easy data, then that should come with a lot of fucking caveats, including accuracy.
But that's supposed to be a human. That's supposed to be a spy. That's supposed to be a scout.
Exactly.
That's supposed to be a market dude sitting somewhere sharing that data.
Exactly,
not the
Caleb.
system.
Caleb. Exactly.
And
you need to go out and get that data.
There's a level with these tools where the data needs to be available at a good enough level,
right?
but not a great level. You should always be like, there should always be like a compromise that you're making somewhere to get good enough data that it works, but it's not great enough that you can map everything that you want from it. You should have to you should have a layer of having to put in the work.
Right. And there should be it should be set up so that, like, if you're looking at space that you control, okay, you should have access to better data than you have for anywhere else.
And that brings back the whole fog of war thing, right? We need to make CCP understand that the game as a conflict engine doesn't work if all knowledge is perfect and every resource is available to everyone everywhere.
What's more,
that's just not going to work.
It doesn't work properly if all of these tools can be trusted. Like, not even looking at the issue of who is getting your data, okay? Or rather, not even centralizing the issue of who is getting your data, okay? When it comes down to, don't use that tool, it's giving your data to this group. Don't use that tool, it's giving your data to this other group. What that does, totally aside from the data itself, what that does is it promotes conflict in EVE at the most
it inherently
basic fundamental
creates
level
suspicion
because it makes people paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is one of those things where you inherently creates suspicion when you say, "Hey, you can only trust our internal tools," right? For example, one of the biggest examples of this,
and then
I think
somebody gets pissed off at somebody because, you don't piss off the IT guy, right? But then somebody else doesn't realize that's the IT guy, and so he's wondering, well, why is everybody so deferential to this motherfucker? It all drives conflict so well over the long term.
I think the best example I can give of that whole bit of, do we trust that tool? I'm not sure we trust that tool. Was Eve Praisal, right? So like there are some things in Eve that are you can basically consider them to be institutions, and there are some tools in Eve or external tools about Eve that you can basically consider to be an institution. One of those,
EFT
for example,
is now
EFT and Python, Zed Killboard, another one where like everybody just goes, "Oh, that's Squiz." Everybody knows Squiz. Squiz is good people. And Cribber, right?
Yeah.
Cribber in game made his entire living and business model out of being the Switzerland of fucking Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew that if you used Cribber as a third party, you were not going to get shafted.
If you needed a random number generator, you went and used Cribber's dice.
Like fucking if you needed to transact a Titan way back in the day, or a Keep Star, like you went to Cribber and Cribber would make sure that you did not get shafted, because everybody trusted Cribber, and if you shaft on a Cribber deal, you are going to get basically blacklisted from everybody ever trusting you again.
Right.
And then it's back to the value of trust and the value of third-party trust management, and the fact that then you get the scale thing, that there was too much for Cribber to do, so more and more people started offering third-party service, and then you
none
get
of them
new
were quite the same.
Exactly. Then you start getting points of failure, you start getting new trust issues, and then you start getting conflict. This is what drives conflict in EVE, and
but this
has always been like that.
But the other one of those institutions was Eve Praisal until like last year, and we covered it on the show. The death of Eve Praisal. The guy who was running Eve Praisal basically went, "I'm not playing Eve. I haven't been playing Eve. I've been running the server, but like I'm not engaged with it anymore. So here I'm going to open source my code, and you guys can host it wherever you want. But I'm out. I'm done." And immediately there were copycats hosting the Eve Praisal source code. It was the same thing, but nobody trusted the new people who stepped into the gap, and therefore, basically every larger scale organization that had an IT team also got a new appraisal tool, because everybody is now self-hosting the open-sourced Eve appraisal thing, because nobody trusts any one centralized place anymore. And Mito has a good point in Twitch chat. Yes, that did eventually come about because CCP has weird IP blocking shit, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. But by and large, it had just been running passively on a server in Iraq somewhere for years, and hadn't really been touched too much. It was just there because he had a server, and why wouldn't he keep it running if the server is still working, right? But like that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Let's just clarify.
Nobody trusted. Nobody trusted the
just
new
a moment
one.
for a point of clarity.
Yes.
That was a rack. Yes.
Not Iraq.
No.
Not Iraq.
A server rack. Yes, a cabinet with a bare metal server.
Because with your accent, it sounded like it was just running on a server in Iraq somewhere.
It went down because we're hit by a JDAM.
And my God. But like, this is the thing. This is the crux of Eve, and this is one thing I mean, CCP have kind of understood it for a lot of years, but they also don't quite understand it. Is that Eve runs on trust. Everything in Eve runs on trust.
I wanted to say that
they've talked about this because they also know that the best way for players to get new players start playing the game, and they've done a bunch of research on it. CCP Ghost, if you've not looked up some of his stuff on YouTube, I encourage you to do so. He did an awesome talk in Amsterdam in like 2017 that a bunch of goons went to and sat at the edges because we weren't sure if we were gonna like sneak out after 10 minutes if it was shit, and it turned out to be the best presentation of the weekend. But like he talked about the friendship machine, and Hilmar keeps talking about the friendship machine, and CCP know that the best way for new players to get involved in Eve and stay playing Eve is for them to be part of player organizations very quickly.
Yeah, to be part
of. But they don't have an understanding of why that works. Seemingly,
they kind of do. They kind of do.
They can't implement it. They have the data, and they have no extrapolation for it.
They can't implement it because it's not something that you can just code into an experience, because it's one of those things where you have to have that struggle with another person or another group of people and overcome that struggle, and then that forms the bonds, and that's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same for everybody. Like,
I mean, if CCP start funneling people to groups, I mean, the data says that people stay longer when they find a group. Sure. So if we start funneling people into groups, we're great, right? But no, suddenly we start funneling them into groups where they're not having fun and they quit sooner.
And also, one of the reasons about like the degree
work with some of the major, like, the university corp.
It doesn't matter who they work with. What matters, and it doesn't matter who they work with, not because these groups aren't important or these groups aren't doing good work. It doesn't matter because it's not something you can code in. It's not something you can build an algorithm to achieve, because there's so many variables in so many people. Group chemistry is always a funny thing. Anybody who sat down to run a tabletop game can tell you that.
Yeah, that's very true.
And what Adam Jedi in chat's kind of saying is sort of true, but also not true, right? Like, there are a lot of people who kind of play multiplayer games but play it solo, and a lot of the reason for that is because, from a previous experience or from many previous experiences, they get burnt. Right, they have a negative experience with playing with other people, and so it's like, they kind of want to partake in a particular kind of experience, like say playing Eve, but they don't want to have that negative
level
feeling.
Of they like the concept, but they don't necessarily feel like cultivating a whole new friendship group to do it.
Right, and that's the thing.
But what I'm saying is like, it's not a case of it's not a case of they want to play, these games solo. It's just that they don't want to have a negative experience
they don't want to have
with
to deal with all the baggage.
Yeah, exactly.
That's completely
I want
fair.
to jump in with something else.
This is also something that trips CCP up massively too when they're trying to do this, is that they can't actually quantify most of what keeps people in.
Yeah.
Like, no matter all the data they've got will tell you who's staying in and what they're doing while they're staying in, but that's not the trick for group dynamics.
It's not the reason.
The activity, like, they'll be looking at quantifying what people are doing, right? But what people are doing isn't what's keeping them there.
Yeah,
straight up. If you go into a game and you don't like PvP, all right? For example, this is actually a perfect example as I think about it, because I can give first person perspective. I hate PvP.
He's a logic pilot.
That's fair, yeah. Okay.
I have been in most of the largest battles in EVE.
He's a logi pilot. Of course he hates PvP.
And from what I recall, you used to be very good at developing PvP fits as well.
Yes. Because what kept me there, what I was engaged with, what I enjoyed and made me want to do stuff, wasn't the activity, it was the people.
It was. I think there was also another.
The reason you develop fits is because it's a challenge. Because
there was also that was part of it. But like, I started doing it because I started working on fits because my wormhole group, my small corporation, needed somebody to figure out fittings. That was it.
I want to get to something before we move on.
Just real quickly though, Bod.
Okay.
Just real quickly. But the other kind of thing. I'm just there's a quick question for Horrendous. The other kind of aspect of that is, you felt like you were needed, right? Like you felt like you were depended upon, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's another thing because
I started flying Logi because nobody else would.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In our little group,
and
I came out to nullsec because I had stopped playing, and when those guys moved into LAN, right?
You came with them.
One of them specifically got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I need a Logi pilot I can trust." Now, at the time, none of us knew what a ridiculously stupid statement that was.
I mean,
because, nullsec Logi is massively different than small group Logi. But
what I'm saying here is a lot of people who stick, for a long period of time in EVE are people who have either took it upon themselves or had that situation where they were thrust into a situation where they were depended upon in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I do want to point out real quick.
Part of this goes back to what I want to get to, though.
But
we hear this number off of CCP that when people join groups, more of them stick about. How do we know that's not just survivorship bias? No, I know there's a number to it, Horrendous. They put a percentage to it. I can't remember the number. But I'm here how do we know that's not just survivorship bias?
It's something like 60%
if we start,
more likely, from what I remember.
If we started funneling everyone into groups, how can we be sure they're actually going to stick about? Are these not people that might just leave anyway?
And so that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
But I think from what I remember, it's something like if a person joins a player corporation in the first 3 months, they are 60% more likely to make it to a year, something like that.
Right, but it's
a weird statistic.
Are they staying because they're in a corporation, or are they joining a corporation because of the people who are more likely to stay, and they're looking for more stuff to do and people to do it with?
Right, and it might be an entirely wrong way round that they're all looking.
Or is that completely skewed, and it's a player that's been playing for years and already is in a corporation and just knows how to do it?
And CCP can't identify an alt from a player, as per usual.
Yeah. So I mean,
or they're coming in by VPN because it's a new alpha account.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it in those terms, and lies, damn lies, and statistics, and if you're not really mining and understanding your data, the end conclusion isn't worth the electrons it's printed on, right, or whatever you want to say.
And our ass is firmly covered. Nobody here is saying that CCP does not currently understand their data, but they do have a pretty bad track record of it.
I'm not saying it. I'm just heavily implying it.
I would like to point out that
I'm not saying it. I'm just heavily implying it because one of those two things is something that somebody can take and point to and go, "See, you were doing this."
Mm-hmm. I would like to say that the MERs, as of late, as in the last year or two or whatever, have been a lot better than the previous.
Define better.
More complete.
They've been.
There are less mistakes for readers to complain about.
There's less gaping.
They've had fewer gaping holes. Yes.
Yeah. Let's go. To me, that is better.
They've also had a less engaged Reaver to find the holes.
Yeah.
No. I do recall her saying something along the lines of it being better. So
at the same time, while the MER has been, shall we say, more attentive to its detail and coherency, it's part of that perfect information problem we were looking at too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do want to come back just real quick to Arendis's point about, he got dragged into nullsec as a Logi pilot because his wormhole friends went to Lorne, and then one of them knocked up and said,
idea how this shit was going to work.
Hey, I need a Logi pilot I can trust, right? Like, in wormholes, things are a lot more close-knit. In tournament teams, things are a lot more close-knit. You know exactly who your Logi pilots are, and what they can do, what they can't do. Not quite yet. CCP haven't announced the AT, but I will be soon. Someone
did announce it.
They haven't given us a rule set.
It was happening.
But yeah, they haven't given us a rule set. They haven't given us dates. I'm not advertising until I have concrete information. However, my point there is that once you scale this up to the level of larger groups, and Soth can probably back me up on this, we've both been block FCs with, those major battles you were talking about. We've run them right there alongside you.
Yep.
And it's that bit where, okay, scale it up. You've got 256 people in a fleet. And how many of them do you know? How many of them can you trust to do a job that you need them to do? So, for example, your scouting, your Sinos, your whatever it is. And that also scales up on the Logi side of things, because in a 256-man fleet, if you don't have, 15% of that fleet being Logi, you are fucked from the start. Yeah. If you don't have 20 to 25% Logi, you are gonna have a rate of attrition that's higher. And you are never getting those numbers.
You said 15%. I started
was 10. I remember back in the day.
You are never getting those numbers, but that's what you want, right? And also, it's one of those things where when you're in that FC role, when you're in that FC mindset, and you're managing so many different things at once, you've got your Sinos, you've got your Titan Bridge, you've got your Logi to deal with, and everything else. You're not looking at how can I trust all of my Logi. You are looking for the one Logi guy who can manage the rest of the Logi for you.
Right.
And you want to trust that guy. Right. And so it's that bit where, in the smaller groups, you trust all of your Logi because you know them very well. In larger groups, you trust the few people that you know are good at this shit. And you let them manage the rest of it for you.
I'll be honest.
The sub-cat herders.
There's one moment in EVE that really stands out for me. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's not during a fight. It's before a fight. All right? It was during the Halloween War. All right?
Now we're going back to things.
Yeah. Everything's getting set up. We're traveling, right? And Lyris is the FC. It's not a siege fleet. Right? It was one of the few times Lyris FC'd a bigger fleet.
Oh
right?
dear.
I'm guessing that didn't end
seriously,
well.
like this is just like this moment because it encapsulates what Dirk is talking about. All right. Lyra starts going into what had at that point been a fairly standard. The FC is running through the checklist, trying to tell each little subgroup what to do, right? And he starts to run through the logic. This is what you're going to need to have on your watch, and he stops himself and says, "Oh wait, never mind. Horrendous is here. It's covered." That was just this moment of like,
yeah,
that was why I was there. Like that kept me going through the rest of the Halloween War, really.
The other thing about that as well, right, is it's a really tricky thing to kind of go, I'm relinquishing control of everything related to that function.
Right,
to this other person.
Critical functions
right?
in
like,
my fleet.
You need your logi, you need them to work.
Right.
It's that bit of like, if you trust it to the wrong person, your fleet could be dead before you even undock, and you don't know it.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where on low criticality fleets, low stress fleets, you know, the random peacetime roam kind of thing. What I would normally do is try and make sure that, yes, of course I wanted a logi anchor that I knew and could definitely trust.
But
also, there is also that bit of like, you want to pick a logi and make them do the job and see if they
that's where
do well.
That's where you're looking for the
right?
people you can
like,
trust to do it. Yeah.
You teach people by making them do the thing. And Soth and I were pretty notorious for it, in just like picking people and going, hey, yes, you are the logi anchor here. If you need help, you have it. But you are going to do it, and we'll see what happens.
I mean, it went even further later on.
I mean, that's why we built RepSwarm.
It started out as teaching people how to organize, and it ended up as teaching people how to teach people how to organize.
Yep.
Yeah.
Funny how that happens.
You know, we had a lot of fun trying to do that with the FC org for a couple of years.
And
it works better in some environments than it does in others. I'm just going to say that.
Do you know what?
I do want to give a shout out to Tam Tam. Hey, how we're doing well. I think we've been talking about the value of trust a lot today. But you know,
and that came around.
What the big thing about all that is, as far as you know, what the larger thing that we were talking about is, Dirk. None of that is something CCP can build into the game.
No,
but also none of that is CCP. Like, I was going to say that there's a degree of like trust that you kind of. It's difficult to start trusting somebody, but like, you know, you develop that trust over time, and you guys have been saying like how, you know, you run small roams and sort of found people and put people into sort of like to gave them a little bit of sort of
voluntold.
You know, yeah, you volunteered people into positions, you know, to see what they would do and see how they would react, and you kind of figured out the people who you could trust and that kind of thing, right? But like, you always have this situation where you have to sort of take that first step, right? And I kind of feel like some of those first steps can be helped by CCP in some way. Like, the issue with that is that CCP is kind of like really eroded some of those things that they had previously. Like, I'm thinking more in terms of like API checks on your characters, you know, because previously it used to be API checks on your account, right? And now it's just characters.
They've
so
made
like,
it much more.
And it's not like I have issue with, you know, people not being able to, or people having, or orgs having, you know, carte blanche on checking every single aspect of every single character on your account. But like, it helps with that first step of trust to be able to trust somebody to do something or to, give, keys, however minor those keys are, to somebody to do something, because you've kind of checked out what could potentially be areas that somebody may have slipped up in terms of making an alt to spy with, right? So
there's a couple of things I want to address in Twitch chat. First up is Jado44 saying, suddenly becoming responsible for the fate of a 500 bill fleet is a heart attack risk. That was just Yacht Fleet back in the day.
That was just one ship.
Well, that's also true at various points back in the day.
Even in Yacht Fleet, that was one freaking ship.
I mean, 5 trillion.
And that's not even South ship.
Yeah, like you're sitting there thinking, "Hey, I'm a subcap FC. What's the worst that can happen?" And then Asher says, "Oh, South, I'll take the Titan fleet for a minute."
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, one of the earliest moments that I had in nullsec, probably one of the moments that I would consider my make or break point, as am I gonna make it to a block FC level or not? I ran a Cerberus fleet, and I ran it. This is a Cerberus fleet back in like 2017, and I just recently joined Goons, and I'd been a Wormhole FC before that, and I'd been an FC on the other side before that, and whatever. But like, in terms of the block FC level, this was kind of the point, and it was probably a 200-man Cerberus fleet, so not even like a full fleet, really. But I ran it into a stop bubble because I fucked up my warp, my fleet warp, and I basically fed the entire fleet. And Asher comes along. Asher is Sky Marshal at that point. Comes along and goes, "Hey, so do you know what you did wrong?" And this was like a couple of hours after the fight. I'd had time to think about it. But, I very easily fed probably 150 billion ISK in a Serb fleet.
Yeah.
And when... Just like, all right, yeah, this is a thing. It happens sometimes. What did I do wrong? What was the mistake that led to the feed?
It happens to the best of them.
It
happens to the best of them. Like, at least you weren't pipe bombed on the undock of.
I was not
home at the end of an op. Like Mr. V's fleet.
True. I was not papoosed. I've never been papoosed in my FC career. I'm very proud of that fact.
Oh god, Papoosa.
And that's a name that I expect not many of our viewers will ever have known, but some people will get the reference.
They may not know, but they may get the reference still.
The other thing that I want to address from Twitch chat is somebody saying the words "hand keys to boat." And I just want to talk to Arendis and Soth. I want to talk to Arendis and Soth for a minute on the topic of trust and what fleets you would ever trust boat with keys for. And if it's more than one fleet type, you are doing it wrong. The only thing we would ever trust boat with is stealth bombers, and even then, half the time you'll get bombed.
I would absolutely trust boat with bombers. I would trust boat with an alpha fleet, like a real alpha fleet, not rogues. Like you give me a
Maelstroms,
fucking Maelstrom fleet. I would trust with that. Classic Drakes,
really good with?
Nobody did it better.
Yeah, Drakes. Like
Perma
MWD Drakes, he was fucking amazing with.
Boat has definitely earned the rep he's got. But he also earned the keys he got over and over again, even if he didn't necessarily earn each instance of them.
Even if he earned the reneging of those keys.
Right. I mean,
Boat steadily worked his way down to bombers and just bombers.
And speaking to both Boat and the when you're suddenly given responsibility for the welfare of a 500, Boat got me into Logi anchoring. All right. because we were just putzing around doing a regular Alpha fleet, right? Akasha was the Logi anchor. Akasha was basically me before me. And like everything was fine. And then Akasha suddenly drops fleet to join V's fleet because V is running across the fucking game. And moments later, Villy's like, all right, we got to go. And we're off to fucking Asakai.
Jesus.
And like it took 30 minutes to get from where we were to 4 systems out and an hour to get the next 2 systems. During those like 90 minutes, we had no Logi anchor. Everybody in the Logi channel was like, who's going to do it? So finally, I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And yeah, that moment of, I was just some schlub and now, fuck.
Yeah, now you're running it for one of the biggest battles the game has ever seen.
Now you've got responsibility, and now it's up to you to not have the logic we can get completely fucking.
And I have never done this before.
And you know, Manchester has a very good point.
It. There's been no training for this. Yeah, that's a pucker moment.
Manchester has a fair point that, you know, like while we may joke about the number of fleets that we would trust boat with, and you know that bit of like even when we trust boat with bombers, you never know if you're the fleet that's gonna get bombed because half the time boat bombs blues. But like
I have it on good. I have it on good.
He was actually the catalyst for Asakai. He's been around for these huge things. He's made his impact on the game.
I have it on good authority though, Dirk. Watching K-Color fleet as well, because K-Color, you know, taught Boat what he needed to know in terms of bombing and stuff like that. K-Color was legit fucking amazing at bombing.
He was.
There was still many times when K-Color set up a bombing run and that kind of thing, and it all went to shit, and it wasn't down to the FC, it was down to the fucking bombers. Like
there's a lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts.
But yeah, Boat was legitimately the real deal too. And yes, he was the catalyst for Asakai, and it's worth remembering he got the Titan out.
Even though he put
did
it back
get the
in,
Titan out,
and then he was ordered back in.
Yeah.
And at no point was it his Titan.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that bit. Oh, we're at the top of the hour, guys. Even though we started 20 minutes late.
There we go.
Yeah, so.
It is. We want to run through one last thing real quick.
Oh, we could do.
Yeah, I mean, I have a one last thing. I'm not sure about anybody else, but you know, we'll start from the top of the channel, I guess.
Yeah, let's start. Arendis here.
Anything you wanted to bring up, but you didn't?
No, I'm good.
Okay, he's good. Dirk?
My one last thing is actually a comment from Twitch chat that I saw earlier and never managed to find a way to get into conversation, which was Futility 101. And he said, CCP just needs to clone Soth and then everyone would love EVE Online. And I would like to point out that Soth absolutely does not love EVE Online. He's got Stockholm Syndrome just like the rest of us.
No, Dirk, if CCP could clone Soth, all right, then we'd have a boatload of angry Germans running around telling everyone what they're doing wrong, and it would piss people off enough for conflict. See?
Yeah, but we might actually get multiple anger games per year, so you know.
There you go.
I'm not sure what I would do with that. I'm not sure what I would do with that information if they only clone Soth and not clone me.
No, Dirk.
I'm not doing this regularly, but you know.
Dirk, look. Well, you have to look at it the other way. If they cloned Soth, they'd all want to be doing the anger games. So what you'd do is you'd record the sessions of all of the Soths arguing and never agreeing and bickering for hours and hours and hours, and monetize that shit.
Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. I am gonna laugh a little
one
bit.
Of them said, "What if we do all Macarials?"
Right, so I am gonna just a little bit of an anecdote about the way we've tracked our staff stuff for Anger Games,
that's gonna be my last thing. His anecdote.
Dirk's only on his third one last thing, but okay, Dirk, go ahead.
I mean, hey, look, if it's only my third, then we're doing well today.
I mean, hey, look, you asked.
But yeah, so one of the things that we did was we tracked how many hours a lot of our staff did over the course of the Anger Games. And then Soth went, all right, how many hours do we put down for us? And the answer that he came out with was, you know what? I'm looking back to December and going, I'm just going to put 50 hours down for each of us for outside of the stream stuff. And that's probably not accurate anyway. No. So, like...
But I literally said to him, I'm only marking down the time we spend during the actual tournament, because if we track outside the 3 weeks of the actual tournament, then it would be way more than 50 hours.
Way more.
It would be, actually.
So because
we love doing this, though, sometimes.
Because Dirk had 3 one last things, I get at least 2. But they're short. All right?
Okay.
Number 1, I've never been on a boat fleet that I didn't thoroughly enjoy and have a great time. Number 2, CCP, after this big release, they've got an AI release coming out. It's going to be the AI Soth Rasil release. So Soth is going to be in EVE as an AI, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be like, 42 max headrooms out there talking like Soth. It's going to be beautiful.
You know what? I have a question. I have a question for Erik that wasn't answered during the show. That it can be his third one last thing. Why are you on a golf protest today?
No, that's way too long.
Right at the start.
We don't have a half an hour.
Show.
Yeah,
we'll do that after the show.
I mean, we do.
Yeah. Okay. There's
we don't want to make a fucking thing out of it though.
Okay, so the club.
See, now that we've said we
somewhere
he's starting to talk about it.
Yeah, let's not do it. All right. No, it's not about Liv. Okay, but Liv fucking sucks. So go ahead. Soth, you're up.
Soth, what's your one last thing?
You did my one last thing. Come on.
Yeah, he said your anecdote was his one last thing.
Yeah.
There you go. McLeod.
Oh shit. Okay, so I've got a couple things then, I guess. One is next week. We are not going to be overrunning in any way, shape, or form because there's Eurovision, and Eurovision has been a social drinking event.
The staple of the calendar
in
our area.
Not ready.
And
it's a staple of the calendar.
Our livers will be destroyed, and probably won't be feeling too great on Sunday. But it's literally happening the minute after the show ends next week. So, the one last things are not going to run over in any way, shape, or form. In actual fact,
can we watch Eurovision in the United States? I mean, other than just watching.
You're welcome to jump into Bad Posters and
I'm gonna have to do that because last year, I looked at the winner. I'm like,
Moldova was robbed.
What were the people drinking?
Let's just put it this way: if you've never experienced Eurovision, it is an evening of excess, insanity, and just.
Moldova was robbed.
A lot of
Flute Dwarf deserved better.
I'm just gonna say,
and strange European politics. For some
I'm just gonna say, the movie was outstanding.
I'm gonna point out, Erik, if you do join us for our Eurovision watch party, you need to be very well prepared, and you also need to engage with the games.
And you need to understand something very important that started 2 years ago.
What?
Take a drink means take a sip.
Yeah,
Only two.
Otherwise, you're dead.
Not downing it. Otherwise, you will die if you're downing your drink every single time.
Last year it was something. Last year it ended up with something like 293 take a drinks.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say I'm thinking about making this like a family affair up at one of the big TVs up in the loft. Cameras fucking everywhere. Let's go, baby.
If you want to bring the family to bad posters,
drinking age, fine.
Yeah, I mean,
just don't involve the guinea pigs.
Dude, they love to drink, man. They got their own fucking mug.
Oh, dear.
They're down there playing. I mean, I came home last night and they were playing beer pong. Can you believe that shit?
Yes.
They got good dexterity on there. They're doing pretty good with the little.
All right.
No, I'm
You
thinking.
know what I'm gonna have to do now, Dirk, don't you?
And
Bailey's and Kraken.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Fuck.
The other thing is, yes, there is going to be a meta show today.
Whoa.
Yes, Brisk is going to be there.
Whoa.
They are going to be talking about big fights, including the 1,000 plus Dread Brawl in Losec that happened not 48 hours ago.
They also have,
and they also
a special guest that hasn't been seen for a while. So you should tune in.
Yes.
There you go.
And that will be happening in less than 50 minutes.
About 50 minutes.
On this channel. So
I do want to point out one final thing from the kind of INN team. Next weekend is our 10-year anniversary of being CCP partners in one way, shape, or form. We have been doing this, Arendis and I definitely have been doing this for a very long time, talking to CCP and figuring all that out. Our partnership with CCP predates the current partner program. It's been a long time. We know a lot of the guys there. We don't agree with them all of the time, but we do really appreciate the fact that they are kind of at the end of the phone and always willing to engage with us and answer questions if we want to ask or get devs on. The CCP sound team interview that we did here at Push to Talk, possibly one of the best CCP engagements we've ever had.
That was cool.
I don't think anybody would disagree.
So remember,
and also the art team as well. So next week we are commemorating this with a bunch of giveaways. There's going to be live streams all weekend. Skins, other things like our Logitech partners. We're going to have a Logitech giveaway on one of the streams. So if you are, interested in supporting us, interested in celebrating CCP actually working with the community a bit at all next weekend, tune in.
Or if
we'll be back.
Or if you just want to see if we can manage to get completely blacklisted on the 10-year anniversary.
also a possibility. So
Yeah, you never know.
It's not outside the realms of possibility for sure.
But yeah, so that's going to be happening. There will be giveaways. Tune in next week.
All right. Bye-bye, Tam Tam. All right. And I guess do I have to push buttons? I have to push buttons, right?
You have to
go to the outro.
He has to click something.
I got to push buttons.
Yeah, just remember, Eric, we're done.
Yes.
So if you break it now, it's fine.
All right.
See you guys next weekend. Have a good day.
By the way, it's nothing that a reboot didn't fix. Thank you, Windows. All right. Bye. All right, we're out.
See you guys.